The question may not be, what if I had done something anymore? The question is, what if I still could? Hi everyone, I'm Sandy Vecchi, and welcome to No Roles, No Rules, Just You. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine if it's after 5 o'clock. Oh, wait a minute. I was recently reminded by a listener that there are no rules here. So let's just leave it at coffee or wine and forget the 5 o'clock part entirely. No rules, no rules. Remember? Who's checking? All right, housekeeping done. So let's have a conversation. There are two little words that can take us to some very different places. What if? If. Sometimes they drag us backward. What if I had made a different decision? What if I had taken that chance? What if I had chosen differently? What if I had known then, a big one, what I know now? Yeah. Most of us, by the time we hit this stage of life, what I like to call our third act, we have a few of those what ifs sitting in a drawer, don't we? I know I do. And I'm sure you're probably already running one through your head this very moment, aren't you? Come on, be honest. Go ahead. All right, I'll wait. I'll give you a few minutes. Think it over. I've spent a few generally unproductive quiet moments thinking, what if I hadn't married my first husband? Although he was practice for the incredible man I'm married to now. And apparently, I needed a lot of practice. Or I think, what if I hadn't been in such a hurry to grow up? I was one of those kids, maybe like you, who wanted to be an adult before I actually was one. At 22, I was already planning my whole life out, like there was going to be a test on it. What if I traveled more when I was young, seen more of the world before I saw the inside of an office, been a little more carefree, a little less responsible before responsible became the only setting I knew how to operate in? What if I'd had the chance to mature naturally instead of feeling like I had to mature by force? Would I have made different choices? Would my life have gone or turned out somewhere completely different? I don't know. None of us do. And as my husband likes to say, that horse is already out of the barn. In other words, it's done. There are no do-overs. Darn it. And believe me, I have spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to mentally get that horse back into the barn. If I could just change this, if I hadn't done that, if I'd known better, I bet you've got one of those horses too, right? But that damn horse, damn it, is not coming back. Here's the thing. If we actually could go back, if we could, and change some of those choices, not the good, the ones that aren't so wonderful, what else would we change that came after them? I can say, what if I hadn't married my first husband? All I want. But then, as my husband points out, I wouldn't have my 2 children. And there is no version of my life, none, that I would trade for a version without them in it. That's the kind of annoying thing about looking backward. Some of the chapters we'd never choose to relive, yeah, are exactly the ones that gave us the people we love, the strength we didn't know we had, the lessons we needed, and definitely did not want. Yeah. Sometimes those chapters are the whole reason we ended up here. And I bet if you sat with that for a second, you could name a hard chapter of your own that turned out to hand you something you wouldn't give back. That doesn't mean that we pretend that hard parts were like secretly wonderful. They weren't. Believe me, they weren't. It means we can stop wishing we could rewrite them. The past is the past. We can learn from it. We can look at it differently now with a little distance and, thank God, a little humor. Because that's one of the actual perks of getting older. You get to laugh at all the stupid things you did that used to wreck you. But we don't get to go back and rewrite the first 2 acts. We don't. And honestly, these days, I'm much more interested in the scenes that will now make up this next act, the 3rd act, than the previous 2. I'd like to use the bad word, but fumbled through. So the question may not be, what if I had done something anymore? The question is, what if I still could? Now here's where I want you to actually really lean in for a second, because this next part is for you. There's still something in you that you want to do. I know there is. Something you want, where you want to go. Something you've always meant to learn and just never got around to doing it. What if there's a whole part of you that you set down years ago because you were busy being adult, responsible, building the career, raising the kids, paying the bills, taking care of literally everyone else except you? Doing all the grown-up things apparently we sign up for without reading the fine print. What if that part of you is still there, just waiting? And what if this is the time you finally go get it? I'm 68. Realistically, I could have another 25, 30 years ahead of me. Yeah. That's not a curtain call, my friends. That's almost an entire second play. And I don't want to spend those years looking backwards, saying, I wish I had, I want to spend them looking forward, saying, what if I did? What if I started something new? What if I finally went somewhere I've been talking about going for decades? What if I stopped worrying about whether I'm too old or whether it's too late? Or if there's this committee out there with a clipboard that's like checking on all of this. What if I tried something I'm not particularly good at? Like starting this podcast on purpose, just to feel like a beginner again, embarrassed again, clumsy again. What if I made new friends at 68 the way I did in the 3rd grade on the actual playground with no algorithm involved? What if I said yes? Or honestly, this one might be harder. What if I said no? What if I stopped doing something just because I've always done it? What people expected of me? What if I stopped living as a version of myself that quietly stopped fitting something here along the way? Have you ever had that moment? You look at yourself, you look at in the mirror, your own life, and think, wait, when did I agree to this? Those are the what ifs I'm interested in now. Not the ones that keep me beating myself up, going back over a life I can no longer change, I can't change it. The ones that make me curious about the life I still get to have, because that's what the 3rd act is actually all about. Waking up to the fact that we're still here, looking honestly at who we've been and who we actually are now. It's changed, which, by the way, are not, like I said, have changed. It's not always the same person. And that's loud, perfectly allowed. Letting ourselves imagine what could come next And then, and this is the part we conveniently forget, actually doing something about it, taking action. And listen, it doesn't have to be these huge, grandiose steps. It doesn't mean you have to sell the house, buy one of those backpacks with 17 zippers and move off to Tuscany. Oh, it does sound kind of good. But what if? Sometimes it's one conversation, one class, one trip, one phone call you keep meaning to make. You know, those hard ones. One tiny, unglamorous step towards the thing you've been thinking about for years. That's really the heart of the work I do. The conversations I have with people about this exact stage of life. I call it my 4 invitations. We must awaken, we must reflect, we must reimagine, and we must act. We must wake up to the life we're actually living, not the one on autopilot from the first 2 acts. We must reflect on what actually matters to us now, not what mattered to us at 30. We must give ourselves permission to imagine something different. And then we take a step toward it. Now, I'm not going to unpack all 4 of these today. That's a much bigger conversation. And really, it's at the heart of the work that I do with audiences. Besides, we'd probably need a second glass of wine for that, maybe a bottle. But I'll leave you with this. We've spent enough time, you and I both, on the what ifs that drag us backward. It's time to ask the ones that move us forward, the questions that move us forward. Time to stop asking, what if I had done things differently? Doesn't matter, you can't change them. And start asking, what if I do things differently now? Because the horse may already be out of that barn, but we're not. Nope. We're still here. And there's still life to be lived. So, instead of looking back, let me leave you with a few different what ifs. What if the thing you've been thinking about isn't too late? What if you aren't too old? What if you don't need to have it all figured out? You just need to take the first step. And what if the best part of your story isn't behind you? What if it's the 3rd act you're writing right now? No roles, no rules, just you. See you next time.